The glittering world of Hollywood often presents an illusion of flawless romance, where high-profile relationships are meticulously curated for the public eye, painted with the brush of eternal perfection and fairy tale endings. We watch these global icons grace the red carpets, their diamond rings catching the flash of 1,000 cameras, seemingly floating on an untouchable cloud of wealth, beauty, and absolute certainty. The media chronicles every public display of affection, every luxury vacation, and every gushing interview, leading the world to believe that these extraordinary individuals have somehow unlocked the secret to a flawless love story. We become deeply invested in their journeys, waiting with bated breath for the ultimate culmination of their romance, the grand celebrity wedding that promises to dominate headlines and set new standards for elegance and opulence. Millions of fans worldwide look forward to these ceremonies as if they were personal milestones, eager to witness the historical moment when two of the world's most glamorous people pledge their lives to one another. Yet, behind the closed doors of multi-million-dollar mansions and beyond the carefully scripted public relations statements, a completely different reality often unfolds. The immense pressure of living under a perpetual microscope, combined with the volatile nature of fame, creates an environment where even the strongest emotional bonds can begin to fray at the very edges. The glamorous facade can shatter in an instant, revealing that underneath the designer clothing and the public adulation, these global superstars are just as vulnerable, hesitant, and prone to sudden heartbreak as anyone else. Before we dive into the staggering details of these near-miss marriages, take a brief moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the secret lives of the world's biggest icons. The transition from planning the most anticipated social event of the year to abruptly pulling the plug on the entire affair is a psychological and emotional journey that few can fully comprehend. For a standard couple, canceling a wedding is a deeply personal tragedy filled with private tears and difficult conversations with immediate family members. For a Hollywood power couple, however, calling off a wedding means facing a global audience, managing intense media scrutiny, and answering to millions of curious onlookers who demand to know exactly what went wrong. The sheer logistics of a celebrity wedding involve hundreds of vendors, high-security venues, massive financial investments, and international travel arrangements for high-profile guests, making a last-minute cancellation a chaotic and expensive nightmare. When the decision to abort the nuptials is made just days or even hours before the ceremony, it sends shockwaves through the entertainment industry and leaves fans completely bewildered. The initial signs of trouble are rarely broadcast to the public, hidden carefully behind forced smiles and enthusiastic interviews about wedding dress fittings or venue selections. The public is led to believe that everything is proceeding exactly as planned, creating a massive contrast that makes the eventual announcement feel like a sudden, unexpected explosion. We are left wondering what could possibly possess two people who seemingly have everything the world has to offer to abandon their plans at the absolute last second. Is it a sudden realization of incompatibility, the heavy weight of unmanaged expectations, or perhaps the dark shadow of betrayal creeping into the relationship when it is least expected? The underlying tension builds quietly in the weeks leading up to the scheduled date, a silent storm brewing beneath the surface while the public countdown continues unabated. The countdown itself becomes a source of immense anxiety as every passing day brings the couple closer to a public commitment that one or both partners may internally dread. The machinery of Hollywood publicity continues to grind away, promoting the upcoming union as a triumph of love, completely oblivious to the crumbling foundation of the relationship. This disconnect between public expectation and private turmoil creates an unbearable pressure cooker environment, where a single spark can cause the entire structure to collapse in a matter of hours. As we begin to peel back the layers of these legendary Hollywood cancellations, we find ourselves looking back at some of the most shocking moments in pop culture history, events that redefined how we view celebrity romance. The stories we are about to explore involve household names whose sudden decisions to halt their weddings left the world entirely stunned and changed the trajectories of their lives forever. We look at instances where the wedding invitations had already been delivered, the lavish cakes had been ordered, and the grand venues had been fully secured, only for a sudden shift in emotion or a devastating revelation to bring everything to a grinding halt. These are not merely stories of couples changing their minds over a casual dinner. These are accounts of monumental, agonizing choices made under the intense glare of the global spotlight. where every tear is photographed and every rumor is dissected by millions. The atmosphere surrounding these events is always heavy with unexpressed grief, confusion, and a strange sense of betrayal that extends far beyond the couple themselves to the fans who believed in their love story. We find ourselves questioning how love can appear so blindingly bright one day and completely vanish the next, leaving nothing but broken promises and canceled contracts in its wake. The intrigue lies not just in the cancellation itself, but in the frantic, dramatic moments that immediately preceded the announcement, the desperate conversations hidden from the cameras, and the sudden movements of the individuals involved. As the scheduled dates approached, the whispers within the inner circles of these stars grew louder, hinting at a reality that the public was not yet prepared to accept. The contrast between the joy expected by the world and the deep sorrow experienced by the individuals involved creates a haunting narrative that still captivates pop culture historians to this day. It reminds us that fame and fortune offer absolutely no protection against the universal pain of a broken heart, and that the grandest stages can host the most profound personal tragedies. In the segments that follow, we will unravel the specific details of these high-stakes heartbreaks, examining the precise moments when the illusions shattered and the stars chose to walk away from the altar, leaving the world to pick up the pieces of their broken promises. The illusion of eternal Hollywood perfection truly shattered in the summer of 1991, during what was supposed to be the definitive fairy tale wedding of the decade. Julia Roberts, the undisputed darling of cinema following her meteoric rise in Pretty Woman, was scheduled to marry the intense and talented actor Kiefer Sutherland. The wedding was conceived on a monumental scale, set to take place on a massive soundstage at the 20th Century Fox Studios, which was being meticulously transformed into a dreamlike garden paradise. Hundreds of high-profile guests had cleared their busy filming schedules, the media was in a state of absolute frenzy, and the entire entertainment industry was poised to celebrate the union of two of its brightest young stars. This was not Julia's first high-stakes romance, as she had previously been engaged to her Steel Magnolias co-star Dylan McDermott, a relationship she abruptly ended when her intense connection with Kiefer Sutherland took hold. However, just 3 days before she was set to walk down the aisle in a stunning custom designer gown, Julia Roberts sent shockwaves through the world by calling off the entire ceremony. Rumors immediately began to swirl through the valleys of Los Angeles, with heavy whispers suggesting that Julia had discovered Kiefer had been unfaithful, a devastating blow that made a public commitment completely impossible for her. The drama reached a surreal climax on the very day the wedding was supposed to happen, when paparazzi tracked Julia down not at home in tears, but having a casual lunch with Jason Patric. The twist sent the media into overdrive because Jason Patric was not just another actor. He was Kiefer Sutherland's exceptionally close friend and was originally slated to serve as the best man at the wedding. In a move that mirrored a Hollywood script, Julia and Jason fled to Ireland together almost immediately after, embarking on a brief, highly publicized romance that left Kiefer to deal with the public humiliation and the sudden collapse of his future. A decade later, the pop culture landscape was dominated by another Titan couple whose sudden wedding cancellation left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of the public. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, universally known by the portmanteau Bennifer, were the absolute blueprint for the modern celebrity super couple in the early 2000s. Their every movement was tracked by fleets of photographers, their music videos and movies merged with their real-life romance, and their planned September 2003 wedding was treated like a national holiday by the entertainment press. Yet, in the final days leading up to the massive event, the couple released a joint statement announcing that they were postponing the nuptials due to the overwhelming media circus. Ben Affleck would later reflect deeply on this painful period, explaining that the massive, invasive amount of scrutiny on their private lives completely suffocated the relationship. Jennifer Lopez echoed this sentiment, admitting that they simply crumbled under the weight of the immense pressure, unable to separate their genuine love from the media monster that surrounded them. Though they desperately tried to stay together in the immediate aftermath of the canceled wedding, the damage to their foundation was too severe, leading to a painful breakup in January 2004. Their story, however, was far from over, as they would shockingly reconcile nearly 2 decades later in 2021, finally marrying in 2022, only to ultimately divorce in 2024, proving that the shadows of their past could never truly be erased. This pattern of youth and intense public pressure also claimed the relationship of Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow in 1997. The glamorous pair had been together for 2 years and were actively planning a massive wedding that was expected to define the late 90s aesthetic. Instead of exchanging vows, they stunned their fans by announcing a total separation, leaving millions wondering how such a golden couple could fall apart so close to the finish line. Gwyneth Paltrow, who was 9 years younger than Brad Pitt and a mere 22 years old when they first met, would later look back on the split with immense clarity and emotional maturity. She explained that she was simply too young, did not truly know herself, and had absolutely no idea what she was doing when trying to navigate a high-profile engagement to one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. While some couples use months to realize a wedding is a mistake, others operate on a chaotic, accelerated timeline that inevitably leads to disaster. In July 2007, the rhythm and blues superstar Usher and his partner Tamika Foster reportedly made the impulsive decision to get married with only 2 weeks of actual preparation for a grand Hampton ceremony. The rush created an unstable environment, and on the exact day the wedding was scheduled to take place, the entire event was abruptly called off. Insiders alleged that a major catalyst for the last-minute cancellation was the fierce disapproval of Usher's mother, Jonetta Patton, who wielded immense influence over his life and career. The emotional turmoil was massive, especially since Tamika was pregnant at the time, but the couple managed to salvage their bond, marrying in a quiet civil ceremony the following month before holding a larger, rescheduled celebration in September 2007, though the relationship ultimately ended in a bitter divorce in 2009. A similar professional and personal entanglement occurred on the set of the hit television medical drama House, where co-stars Jennifer Morrison and Jesse Spencer fell deeply in love. After a highly romantic engagement at the Eiffel Tower in 2006, they prepared for a grand 2007 wedding, only to break up in the months leading up to the date, releasing a somber joint statement explaining that, after much consideration, they decided not to marry. Because they were contractually obligated to continue working together daily on a high-pressure television set, they had to endure the excruciating awkwardness of watching their actual characters get married on-screen. An ironic twist that culminated in Jennifer's character being written out of the show in 2009 after a fictional divorce. The world of professional sports and reality television experienced its own massive shock when wrestling icon Nikki Garcia postponed her highly anticipated wedding to superstar John Cena just weeks before the scheduled May 2018 date. The underlying cause of their sudden fracture was a fundamental difference regarding their futures, specifically Nikki's deep desire to have children and John's long-standing insistence that he did not want to become a father. They briefly separated but reunited after John reportedly agreed to have his vasectomy reversed in a desperate bid to save the relationship and try for a family. Despite this massive concession, the built-up resentment and the cracks in their foundation could not be repaired, and they ended their relationship for good in July 2018, proving that some compromises are simply too monumental to overcome. Pop icon Lady Gaga also faced the devastating reality of a public cancellation when her planned wedding to actor Taylor Kinney was called off in 2016. The couple had seemed incredibly solid, but Gaga took to Instagram to candidly reveal that long distance and their incredibly complicated, demanding professional schedules had driven an unbridgeable wedge between them, forcing them to pause their dreams of a life together. Meanwhile, Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth experienced a famously tumultuous road to the altar that began when they postponed their planned mid-2013 Australian wedding. By September of that year, the young couple announced they had ended their engagement entirely, with Miley being only 20 and Liam's 23, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of their global fame. In a surprising twist, they found their way back to each other in late 2015, re-engaging and finally marrying in December 2018, only for the relationship to collapse into a final permanent breakup just months later in 2019, demonstrating that sometimes even a second chance cannot fix a fundamentally broken bond. The patterns of sudden heartbreak and broken engagements in Hollywood are not limited to reality television or mainstream music. They extend into the seemingly sophisticated worlds of high-end cinema and classical period adaptations. A striking example of this unfolded between the brilliant director Joe Wright and the exceptionally talented actress Rosamund Pike, who fell deeply in love during the production of the acclaimed 2005 adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. The creative synergy between the two was palpable, and their relationship flourished rapidly under the admiring gaze of the film industry, leading to plans for an idyllic and romantic wedding in Italy scheduled for 2008. The invitations had already been designed and dispatched to their elite circle of friends and colleagues, and the preparations for the Mediterranean celebration were nearly complete when the entire event was suddenly and mysteriously canceled. Rosamund Pike would later bravely share the deeply painful details of the collapse, revealing to the public that Joe Wright had suddenly fallen out of love with her in the immediate lead-up to the ceremony, a shocking realization that she described as utterly devastating. The abrupt end to their shared future left the actress to navigate the profound grief of a public separation, while the industry reeled from the unexpected fracture of one of its most promising creative partnerships. Proving that even a deep appreciation for classical romance cannot safeguard a relationship from the harsh realities of sudden emotional detachment. Long before the modern era of constant digital documentation, the pressures of building a career in Hollywood could just as easily dismantle an engagement, as seen in the early lives of Alec Baldwin and Janine Turner. When they met in their early 20s, both were far from the household names they would eventually become, operating in the highly stressful and volatile aspiring phase of their respective acting careers. Their intense connection quickly led to an engagement, and plans for their upcoming wedding began to materialize rapidly, creating an illusion of stability in an otherwise highly unstable profession. Janine Turner would later look back on this foundational period of her life, noting that absolutely everything had been planned and secured for the big day, yet she made the difficult decision to call it off at the final moment. She realized that she was inadvertently repeating unhealthy emotional cycles and patterns that would ultimately destroy her well-being if she proceeded with the marriage, choosing instead to prioritize her long-term personal growth over a premature and risky marital commitment. This difficult choice, though painful at the time, allowed both individuals to focus entirely on their crafts, leading them down completely separate paths toward major professional success and personal fulfillment, illustrating that sometimes walking away is the healthiest decision an individual can make. In the landscape of early 2010s reality television, the stormy relationship between lifestyle personality Kristin Cavallari and professional football star Jay Cutler provided endless fuel for the media. By 2011, the glamorous couple had completely booked their highly anticipated wedding, securing luxury venues and coordinating massive guest lists that drew attention from both the sports world and the entertainment industry. However, in the months directly prior to the scheduled date, they stunned their followers by calling the entire celebration off, with Kristin later explaining that an undeniable gut feeling told her that something simply was not right within their dynamic. Despite the highly publicized cancellation, their emotional connection remained strong, and the pair actually managed to reconcile in 2012, eventually getting married in 2013 and starting a family together. Yet the deep-seated issues that caused their initial hesitation eventually resurfaced, culminating in a highly publicized and complex divorce in 2022, reminding observers that initial doubts are often rooted in deep, unshakable truths about compatibility. A far more resilient but equally chaotic journey was experienced by the stars of the docuseries Teen Mom, Caitlin Lowell and Tyler Baltiera, whose relationship began all the way back in middle school. Their bond was forged through immense personal adversity, particularly when Caitlin became pregnant during their teenage years, and the young couple made the incredibly mature and agonizing decision to place their first baby up for adoption. This shared trauma drew them closer, leading to a high school engagement and a wedding date set for July 2011, which was abruptly canceled just days beforehand because Tyler expressed a profound terror of being stuck in a permanent rut before truly experiencing adulthood. Instead of allowing the cancellation to break them apart permanently, they stayed together to work through their individual anxieties, getting engaged once again in 2014 and welcoming another baby in early 2015, whom they chose to raise. They finally walked down the aisle in August 2015 when they were both 23 years old, subsequently expanding their family with 2 more children and remaining married to this day, offering a rare example of a last-minute wedding cancellation that ultimately saved a relationship by allowing it the time it needed to mature. In stark contrast to this youthful evolution was the bizarre and heavily scrutinized romance between the iconic Playboy founder Hugh Hefner and the young model Crystal Harris. In 2011, the 25-year-old Crystal was scheduled to marry the 85-year-old media mogul in a massive, media-saturated ceremony at the famous Playboy Mansion. But she experienced a sudden change of heart just days before the event and called it off. The media went wild with speculation, with Hugh Hefner publicly claiming in the aftermath that he might have missed a bullet, while Crystal candidly stated in interviews that she was not physically or emotionally turned on by the elderly billionaire. In an unexpected turn of events that baffled the public, the pair reconciled in June 2012, officially marrying in December of that year and remaining together until Hugh Hefner's passing in 2017, proving that the motivations behind celebrity reconciliations are often as mysterious as their sudden cancellations. Finally, the modern era brought its own unique challenges to high-profile romances, none more pervasive than the global disruptions of 2020. The pop superstar Katy Perry and the Hollywood actor Orlando Bloom were among the most prominent power couples whose lavish wedding plans were completely derailed by the onset of the worldwide pandemic. They had painstakingly arranged a dream destination wedding in Japan set for the summer of 2020, but the rapid closing of international borders forced them to call off the event entirely in March of that year. While they welcomed a child together later that same year and maintained a highly visible, supportive public engagement for several years, the momentum of their wedding plans seemed to vanish entirely under the weight of their shifting priorities and demanding global schedules. The long-delayed nuptials never materialized, and the couple ultimately shocked their global fan base by ending their relationship for good in 2025. Serving as a poignant reminder that even the most glamorous and well-intentioned love stories can eventually run out of time when life continuously gets in the way of a formal commitment. These diverse accounts of near-miss marriages reveal a fundamental truth about the nature of fame, showing that the grandest stages often play host to the most complex personal trials. Whether driven by sudden betrayals, extreme media pressure, deep-seated incompatibilities, or global catastrophes, these celebrities demonstrated immense courage in choosing to face public humiliation rather than entering into a marriage that felt fundamentally wrong. Their stories continue to fascinate us because they strip away the carefully constructed illusions of Hollywood perfection, leaving behind the raw, universal human struggle to find true and lasting love in a world that is constantly watching. Did we miss any other major celebrities who chose to cancel their nuptials at the absolute last minute? Or is there a particular couple whose dramatic story